Hello, everybody, and welcome back to PeppTalk, the podcast of Pepperdine University. Today, we're diving into the Waves Innovation Summit, an annual student and alumni-led gathering on our Malibu campus that brings together the very best of Pepperdine's entrepreneurial spirit. In partnership with the Graziadio Business School and Seaver College, the 2026 summit convenes students, faculty, alumni, and industry leaders from across all 6 schools to explore the future of technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. This year, the focus is on artificial intelligence, moving beyond headlines to practical AI literacy, real-world application, and the career pathways emerging in a rapidly changing economy. Through expert keynotes, breakout panels, and intentional networking, the summit is strengthening Pepperdine's innovation ecosystem and equipping our community to lead with both creativity and purpose. And as if that weren't enough, Shark Tank will also be on campus for the Shark Tank x Pepperdine pitch event, offering students, alumni, faculty, staff, and participants the opportunity to meet directly with producers and pitch their next great idea. Today, we'll explore the Waves Innovation Summit and how it's cultivating bold thinking, meaningful collaboration, and the next generation of Pepperdine entrepreneurs. Ulysse and Anthony, welcome to the Pep Talk. Tell us about yourselves for our listeners.
Hi everyone, I'm Ulysse. I started the Waves Innovation Summit just to create a platform for closer collaboration between our student body and amazing alumni network that we have working in tech and entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Hey everybody, Anthony Kennada, graduated from Pepperdine in 2008, and I've been working in and around Silicon Valley kind of ever since. A lot of that experience has been originally during a big platform shift when we moved from on-premise kind of software to the cloud. And now all these years later, we're at the cusp of another platform shift from cloud to AI. And so it's been really, really exciting. And I'm looking forward to being part of the Innovation Summit and talking to you guys today.
Awesome. Well, Ulysse, what was your Pepperdine chapter like, and what did it prepare you for now in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my time at Pepperdine was phenomenal. I think that there are just so many opportunities at Pepperdine to get involved, take initiative, and start something. During my junior year at Pepperdine, I started another initiative called the Coastal Capital Summit, which centered around finance and kind of explored the financial industry in a similar way that the Waves Innovation Summit is. Connecting students with alumni and professional opportunities. And I think, at Pepperdine, there's really just like the sky is the limit. If you take initiative and talk to professors, talk to administrators at Pepperdine, you can really, really do a lot of cool stuff. And I'm very aligned with Pepperdine's mission. I think that's part of the reason why I started this initiative, the Waves Innovation Summit, is because I believe that the more that we can create professional opportunities for students at Pepperdine, the better the university is going to be able to advance its mission. And I think everyone wins.
Awesome. Anthony, your career arc has taken you from Pepperdine to Gainsight to writing a book and to founding multiple companies. For listeners who are just getting to know you, could you give us the highlight of that journey as well?
Yeah. I graduated from Pepperdine, thinking I was going to start a company, and at the time in consumer tech, in the travel kind of space, and company didn't pan out. But at the time, I knew I needed to be in the Bay Area to kind of give it its fair shot. And so I moved from Malibu up to Palo Alto, and took a day job at this company called Box in the enterprise software space, just to basically pay the bills while kind of starting this entrepreneurial venture. And like most startups do, that one didn't work out. And Box, the day job, little did I know it at the time, ended up becoming, one of the most important kind of companies of the cloud computing kind of industry. And a chance to get in there in the early days, I just sort of fell in love with startups and building companies. And so, had a few roles in the kind of sales, business development context, made the shift to product management, working at a Fortune 100 company there. But the sort of crescendo kind of happened when I joined a company called Gainsight, pre-revenue as the head of marketing. And so at Pepperdine, I had a marketing minor, and some of my favorite classes were in marketing. But at that time, I hadn't actually, done the work of being a marketer. And so used a lot of first principles, a lot of, what did I as a consumer of marketing really react to, and tried to bring that into kind of how we were building Gainsight. And so over the course of 7 years, we built that company to 100 million of recurring revenue. We sold the company for about 1.1 billion in 2020. And more importantly, like the Gainsight kind of community and mission and kind of movement around this new practice called customer success was incredible to be a part of. And so a couple of CMO roles, and then made the shift to being an entrepreneur. So kind of reclaimed that kind of the miss from right outside of Pepperdine, and started a company called Audience Plus. That was focused on helping companies rethink how they do content. We content in the weird world of B2B in some cases still means like white papers and data sheets and SEO, where of course, as consumers, we think of content as following our favorite creators and kind of live streaming and building audience on social. And so trying to bring that practice into the B2B playbook. And now kind of working on a new thing called Golden Hour, very much in the early days.
When you look back at your time in Malibu, what stands out as the thing that Pepperdine gave you that mattered most in your career and your life thus far?
I mean, if I don't answer meeting my wife, then I'm in serious trouble. So definitely meeting my wife, and of course having our kids and all that. I'd say too, something Ulysse, you said resonated with me. Pepperdine sort of evangelizes the idea of values-based leadership. And I think it's really until you get into the world and you're like, okay, this is a scarcity. This is rare to be able to actually, kind of have the ambition to be successful in business, but kind of retain your character and your values, and not just in this kind of way of surviving kind of the rest of the world, but actually taking leadership positions and being a part of making a change, not just in kind of the products you build, or kind of your mission, but also your how. How do we build companies? Like, what are our values? How do we kind of keep those before us? And so at the time, that as a student, that could often feel a little hand wavy. But I think when you get out into the world, you're like, oh my gosh, like Pepperdine really set that foundation for me, and something that, I view as, so important to business kind of more broadly. So I'd say the Pepperdine kind of values-based leadership foundation has stuck with me to this day and continues to be kind of front of mind.
I would love to just go off of that. As a student, I agree. It seems a little bit removed from the professional world, and you don't know how much of an impact that actually has. But then, up until, today now, making the switch over, I'm now working for a company called Armada, which is founded by a Pepperdine alum. And, I think there's just so much of a intangible asset of like working for a company that is driven by values, driven by a leader who has a head on their shoulder. And Pepperdine is absolutely an incubator for students and professionals, people going out in the world who are much more grounded than their peers around them.
That's awesome. Thank you both for sharing. That's really great to hear. Ulysse, you also founded the Coastal Capital Club, which puts on the Coastal Capital Summit. What did building those two things teach you? And is that where the idea for the Waves Innovation Summit come up? Was that how it was born? Could you please share a little bit about that process?
Yeah, I think that kind of building the Coastal Capital Summit, and it really it didn't happen overnight. It was a compounding effect of like small actions over a consistent effort, consistent period of time. Really has compounding massive effects. And so Coastal Capital Summit started with just a small gathering, I think probably 30, 40 attendees. And I think I was like blown away by how many people wanted to show up and talk about finance on a Saturday. But then, we kind of iterated from there, and year 2, we had over 200 attendees. And then year 3, we had almost 400. So, I think it just really showed me that trust your gut and take initiative on things. And, that's part of the reason that I switched from, I started my career in finance and, really enjoyed that. But I think I found through Coastal Capital Summit how much I enjoy being part of building something and taking initiative and kind of managing your own work and what you do. And so that's part of the reason why I'm now at Armada and then building up this initiative as well, the Waves Innovation Summit.
Amazing. So why is AI the focus for this inaugural summit? Was that always the plan, or did it evolve into that being the focus?
I think the idea is that we want to have topics and issues come to Pepperdine that are really at the forefront of like what's important within the world right now and the economy, and equipping students and leaders well to go out and then be leaders not only within Pepperdine, but leaders in the rest of the world. And AI is just such a rapidly developing topic and area right now that I think it would be remiss not to include it this year.
That's awesome. So for both of you guys, how do you work with AI in your industry? I know it's a little bit different considering the places that you both work. Could you please elaborate a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. So Armada is building the infrastructure that most of civilization has benefited from over the past 20 years and more recently with the shift in AI. We're building that infrastructure in places that have been left behind from that growth. So backbone industries that have really fueled the American economy and remote edge locations have not had the typical connectivity that you've seen, if you're starting a business or you have a business in the metropolitan area. And so building that data infrastructure in very remote locations is helping those other industries to catch up to where the rest of the world is at.
Yeah, and my, as a knowledge worker, marketer, sales professional, name your kind of practice, any of us who are working at a laptop, I think there's 1 billion people in the world that do. Our entire practice is being rewritten by AI. And for a lot of us, the playbooks that we've relied on to do our jobs well for our whole careers either just don't work anymore or are being rewritten live. And so with that comes a lot of certainly uncertainty and all of that, but also opportunity to say, okay, well, how are we going to build relationships at scale as marketers going forward? How are we going to close deals, build products, like all these things that we've done for years? And so conversations like this one, gatherings like this one are super important for us to share what we're learning, because I don't think anyone can claim to have all of the answers. I think even the people leading the foundational labs don't know where this is kind of fully heading. And so I think community networking, all this is going to be like really critical for us to like have conversations, share what we're learning from the front lines, and invite people to sort of maybe get excited about what this could mean for your job, for your career, for your impact that you want to make in the world. In Silicon Valley, the folks are referring to this as like the second kind of industrial revolution, and we get to live through it. How awesome. And so how are we going to play a part? I think is the invitation for people that are going to be coming to the event.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing that. For someone deciding to register right now, could you maybe walk us through what the day actually looks like? What's the programming? What's going to be involved?
Absolutely. So it's on March 28th, Saturday, March 28th, from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And we have a number of keynote speakers, such as Anthony, kind of industry leaders coming in from really, really top tier companies. I mean, you hear them in the news like OpenAI, Meta, Google, NVIDIA. We have industry leaders coming in from these really great companies to share their experience working at the forefront of entrepreneurship and technology. And then we'll have opportunity for networking and, talking in a more casual setting to these people rather than just seeing them on stage. And then we're going to break out into kind of focus groups. So there will be breakout room for, if you're interested in learning more about AI application into your job, your daily workflow. There's going to be a breakout room on that. There's going to be a breakout room on kind of industry outlook and, macroeconomic themes coming from this. There's an industry outlook on like go to market. Like if you're building a business, how do you actually bring it to market and start making money? And then there's a breakout room on, it's called like a hackathon. So if you're technically inclined, if you're a computer science or data science major and you want to compete in this competition that we're posting, it's sponsored by a company called Stats Perform, and it's going to be a really, really cool opportunity to kind of showcase some evolving technologies in AI, and fun, friendly competition.
That's awesome. Wow, I'm so excited to attend. And there's also something happening concurrently that feels also pretty extraordinary.
So Shark Tank is coming to campus, and they're doing casting calls for anyone within our Pepperdine network. So that includes students, alumni, professors, parents, friends of the university. You're all invited to give a pitch to the Shark Tank team for the opportunity to go on their show. So that's pretty cool.
Our keynote speakers also invited to participate?
Yeah. If you want to, you better sign up because there's a limited number of spots for that. So
awesome.
Well, Anthony, you've pitched your vision to investors and built companies from scratch. So do you have any advice for someone considering to go on the Shark Tank?
Yeah, I mean, advice from perhaps real world pitching, but also just a fan of the show. I think part of it is have your story in place. I think storytelling, and especially the early stages of building and pitching a business, is really important, because so often it's about the founder and your conviction that you're able to communicate more than like growth or kind of numbers. I think Shark Tank kind of holds you to both standards there, where they also want to see the numbers and ensure that, this is more than just an idea, but perhaps have some traction behind the concept. And depending on the industry you're working in, it's becoming easier to kind of build your product, and at least from like a digital product perspective. And so, I think perhaps consider having some, engaging an investor when you have some traction as well. But I'm no expert. I mean, I think thinking about like the investor, community is really interesting, but it's such a people-driven industry, and so I think conviction, storytelling, emotional connection, relationships, like ultimately these are probably the primary things. And then should you be able to show some traction, that will only kind of strengthen the case.
I think that's where Pepperdine students actually really excel. I think Pepperdine students have down the kind of grounding of like their character and who they are and where their place is in the world. I think that's really one of the strong suits of Pepperdine. And I think, taking like great books with Dr. Ghost while I was there, and, philosophy classes and all of that, like really just set me up well for success, even going into finance and going into the technology space. I understand my place in the world, my values a lot better. And that has just been such a blessing to now go off into the world and do good.
That's awesome. Well, what do you guys hope for students and alumni to walk away with after March 28? What does success look like for this inaugural summit?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd hope students would have a couple more contacts in their phone. I think, having a better understanding of the entrepreneurship and tech landscape, and then kind of a blueprint on like, this is where I want to go. How do I get there?
That's great. Yeah, the only thing I'd add is just understanding that regardless of industry, this platform shift with AI is going to be transformative and create so much opportunity. So if you're coming in, with little awareness around kind of, AI more broadly, like this is a place to learn, I think, as well. Or if you're at the cusp, I think the speakers that Ulysse and team have brought together are literally at the forefront of this movement. And so a place to get kind of the advanced kind of course as well on what's happening. So that curiosity and hunger to learn, I think, would be a really good, really good kind of posture to take as well.
Yeah. Well, final question for you both. What would you say to a current Pepperdine student who's still figuring out their path, the way you were once sitting in Malibu trying to figure out yours?
I thought I'm not too far out from college, but definitely when I was at Pepperdine, I thought I have to pick the perfect career that I'm going to be in for the next 40 years of my life, and I better like it because I'm going to be stuck. But even in this time that I've been out of Pepperdine, I'm already iterated and changed, and it's just so dynamic. So don't be afraid to try things, fail at them, and then iterate and do something new.
I had a couple come to mind. The first is, it's amazing as I look back, how little control I actually had about different kind of things. It's just more so of learning kind of what to say yes to versus what to say no to, but sort of, just kind of taking faithful steps forward as these opportunities kind of come up. And to your point, in some cases that's going to work really well, other cases it might fail, and just kind of keeping those learnings at the forefront. And the other bit is relationships are so important. The opportunity at Gainsight, that was my breakthrough for my career. I was hired by my old CEO 2 companies ago. And so maintain those relationships, invest in them. And I think that's the most important currency in business, more, broadly speaking.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on the podcast today. There are so many good insights that our alumni and students are going to get from this, and we will link everything about the Waves Innovation Summit below in the description. And yeah, thank you guys both. We hope to bring you back on the podcast soon. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.